It is often asked, what obligations do women have involving mitzvot? Okay, so the introduction is going to explain clearly a woman's obligation to mitzvot. And number one says many laws of the Torah are expressed in the masculine form, but men and women are equally obligated in all of them unless there is a specific source to suggest either a total or partial exemption. With certain exceptions, women are exempt from time-bound positive mitzvot. All prohibitions, however, apply to women. So we see that all prohibitions apply to women. And men and women are equally obligated in all of them unless there is a specific source to suggest either a total or partial exemption. So we're going to look at Tractate Kiddushin 35a, and it says it is written a man or a woman who commits any sin. And that's also Bar Midbar 5:6, a man or a woman. The Torah here equates women with men with respect to all punishments. So all prohibitions, however, apply to women. Okay, so these are the laws that you shall place before them. Shemot 21:2. The Torah here equates women with men with respect to civil law. And an ox, shall kill a man or a woman. And that is in Shemot 21:29. The Torah here equates women with men with respect to the death sentence. Tractate Kiddushin, Tosafot, in Tractate Eruvin 96b, it adds, the women do not even have a rabbinic obligation to perform time-bound mitzvot. Women are exempt from any mitzvah which must be performed at a specific time, unless there is a specific source to suggest either a total or partial exemption. So there's an exception. There are exceptions to the rule. Women must eat matzah on the first night of Pesach. Women also must rejoice on Yom Tov. They must gather for Hachel, and they must observe all the mitzvah connected to Shabbat, and perform mitzvot whose time for performance is seasonal and not tied to a specific date or hour. So let's look at those again, these exceptions. Women, A, must eat matzah on the first night of Pesach. B, they must rejoice on Yom Tov. C, they must gather for Hakel. D, they must observe all mitzvot connected to Shabbos. And E, they must perform mitzvot whose time for performance is seasonal and not tied to a specific date or hour. So there are there's exceptions to the rule. Now the Tractate Kiddushin 34a and Pesachim 43b, it states a woman's obligation to eat matzah is deduced from the inclusion in the same verse, Devarim 16:3, of the prohibition against eating chametz on Pesach, with the obligation to eat matzah on the first night of the holiday. So, of the prohibition against eating chametz on Pesach, with the obligation to eat matzah on the first night of the holiday. And so this teaches that everyone included in the prohibition is also included in the obligation. They're included in the prohibition, they're included in the obligation. They're obligated to do it, and they're included in the prohibition. So the prohibition is also included in the obligation. Even though it is a time-bound positive mitzvah, they're still included in the obligation. Outside of Eretz Israel, this requirement is binding the first 2 nights of Pesach. So when we're outside of Israel and not in Israel as our primary residence where we live, when we're outside, we have 2 days for this obligation. So outside of Israel, this requirement is binding the first 2 nights of Pesach. Tractate Kiddushin, it says based on the verse, and you shall rejoice on your festivals, you, your sons, and your daughters. That's in Devarim 16:14. Number 5, this is a commandment that all Jews gather in the Beis Hamikdash once every 7 years to hear the king Read the book of Devarim. The Torah explicitly obligates women to participate in its mitzvah with a verse. Gather the people, the men, the women. Devarim 31:12. Tractate Barakot 20b. This exemption is based on the tradition that the words Zachor, remember the Sabbath, Shemot 28, and Shamor, guard the Sabbath, Devarim 5:12, both found in the Ten Commandments, were uttered simultaneously by Hashem. The tradition teaches that everyone included in Shamor, the negative commandments of Shabbat, is also included in Zachor, the positive commandments of Shabbat, although it is a time-bound positive mitzvah. For example, the Mishnah